If you're looking at your fields this season, you already know the math is getting tighter. The economic pressure on modern farming isn't letting up. We're seeing aggressive price hikes across the board for agricultural chemicals in 2026. Whether you're running thousands of broad acres or managing high-value vegetable plots, the cost to protect your crop is eating directly into your profit margin. When prices spike, the immediate reaction is usually to grab the cheapest bottle you can find. But in this market, buying strictly on retail price is a financial trap. Surviving the 2026 season requires looking past the top-line sticker price. We have to calculate the true cost per acre, ensuring that every single drop of chemical we spray delivers a concrete return on investment. The decision comes down to a harsh trade-off. Do you minimize your upfront capital at the supply store, or do you pay a premium to maximize your application efficiency out in the field? The traditional method is what we call spray and pray. You buy a cheap, single-action generic, apply it, wait for it to wear off in a few days, and then fire up the tractor to do it all over again. This chart maps capital cost against labor and spray frequency. Cheap generics cluster up here. You save cash up front, but pay heavily with constant physical labor and tractor time. Premium multi-action bottles have a steep initial price, but require minimal application effort throughout the season. The retail price on the bottle is only half the story. Once you factor in the diesel, the hours spent spraying, and the potential crop damage from pest rebounds, the true cost of an insecticide has to be measured by the acre, not by the liter. Let's apply this to a real-world problem. If you're growing high-value cash crops like cotton, sucking pests, especially whiteflies, can decimate your yield in a matter of weeks. This matrix highlights a standard contact killer like Sumitomo acida. It's affordable at around 800 rupees a kilo, but it requires a heavy dose, up to 150 grams per acre. You will get an immediate knockdown. Any whitefly it touches will drop. But that's where the protection ends. It leaves zero residual defense on the plant. Because protection fades instantly, you guarantee returning to the field, burning fuel to spray again days later. Now look at Ronfen. The price jumps to 2,500 rupees. But notice the active ingredients: pyriproxyfen, diethenfuran, and dinothuron. This triple salt combination targets multiple stages of development. It eliminates adult flies, it sterilizes the survivors, and destroys unhatched eggs, ending the infestation cycle entirely. The math changes slightly when we deal with stubborn, deeply embedded pests, like the pink bollworm. Pink bollworms burrow deep into the internal tissue of the plant, moving beyond the reach of standard contact sprays that only coat the exterior leaves. This graphic breaks down Syngenta Ampligo, which runs about 2,700 rupees for 500 milliliters. It splits into two active components, coragen and lambda. This premix gives you a systemic defense that absorbs into the plant tissue, paired directly with a fast-acting contact punch for anything on the outside. Shelling out 2,700 rupees is painful. But doing this yourself means buying two separate chemicals, carefully measuring them, and manually tank mixing them in the field. The premium price buys you a precise, pre-mixed formula and saves you the hazardous labor. If you operate in food-grade vegetable farming, the entire cost-benefit calculation shifts. Safety standards dictate your options. High-value vegetable crops must meet strict legal residue limits. Exceeding these safety thresholds results in a total loss of the harvest's marketability. Take the threat of root nematodes. The traditional, cheap fix is applying granular carbofuran to the soil, but carbofuran is highly toxic, making it incredibly dangerous for vegetable applications. The alternative is a premium liquid, like Bayer's Vellum Prime, which carries a massive price tag of 4,000 rupees per 500 milliliters. Vegetable farmers have to absorb that massive 4,000 rupees cost. Passing strict food-grade residue limits and keeping the consumer safe is non-negotiable for their business model. There is one more variable in the 2026 spray strategy, and it's arguably most critical: adjuvants. This cross-section shows exactly what a premium silicone-based sticker does. Instead of beating up and rolling off, the droplets spread out thinly, coating the surface. The silicone forces your active ingredient deep into the leaf tissue, bonding it physically so it can withstand harsh weather events. Without it, a sudden downpour will simply batter the leaves and rinse your investment right into the dirt. Adding a premium silicone adjuvant tacks another 1,100 rupees onto an already expensive spray tank. It hurts the budget, But think of it as a mandatory insurance policy. Skipping the sticker risks literally washing a 2,700 rupee bottle of insecticide down the drain the second the weather turns. In a heavily inflated market, blindly buying chemicals is a quick way to go broke. You have to match your exact economic profile to a specific strategy. This scorecard maps out 3 distinct approaches for 2026: the budget-conscious farmer, the vegetable farmer, and the optimizer. If you are running broad acres on tight margins, you are the budget-conscious buyer. You need to avoid those 2,500 rupee premium premixes entirely to keep your upfront costs low. You should stick to reliable, affordable generics like Lambda or cypermethrin, but always pair them with a mandatory silicone sticker so that cheap spray actually holds up. If you're a vegetable farmer, your path is rigid. You have to eat the high cost of inputs like Vellum Prime because consumer safety and residue compliance trump everything else. Finally, for the optimizer, growing high-value crops like cotton or guar, your focus is entirely on multi-action efficiency. You are leaning into products like Triple Star and Ronfen. By condensing insecticides and fungicides into a single pass, you drastically cut down on diesel consumption, engine wear, and field labor. And here is the final variable. Many of these specific 2026 rates are cash and carry at the local counter, with no online delivery available. You have to factor the fuel and time of your own travel logistics into the final true return on your harvest. For a lot of growers right now, the standard chemical rotation simply isn't working anymore. Pests have built up heavy resistance, and the staple insecticides you've relied on for years are leaving fields vulnerable. When the old playbook fails, it forces a difficult choice. To save your crop, you have to look past the generic aisle and transition to next-generation molecules. This chart compares the economics. As the line shows pest resistance climbing, you can see the gap in cost. Traditional sprays require a minor upfront investment, while these new Group 30 and 36 formulations command a massive premium, ranging from 1,100 to over 2,200 rupees per acre. When spending up to 2,200 rupees on a single spray, you take on immense financial risk. If you apply a high-end chemical like that to the wrong crop or for the wrong bug, you've essentially burned your profit margin. This is where we have to use what we call the scenario match. It means resisting the urge to just buy the most expensive bottle on the shelf, and instead matching a chemical's exact mode of action directly to the specific agronomic problem in your field. Buying a premium insecticide is a complete waste of your capital unless that specific formulation is perfectly calibrated to the exact pest crisis you're facing. Let's start with the heavy hitters, the Nuka's Lenovo and Bayer's Kamalis. These are your premium broad-spectrum defenders, engineered for comprehensive field-wide protection. They use a dual-action formulation. In a single pass, they target sucking pests like thrips and mites, while simultaneously taking out chewing pests like borers and caterpillars. Both utilize translaminar action. When spray hits the canopy, the chemical permeates the internal tissue of the leaf, reaching pests on the underside. Kamalis takes this further with two-way systemic action. This cross-section shows how that works. Once the chemical enters the plant, it travels through the vascular system in both directions, moving up the xylem to new shoots and down the phloem to the roots. But that level of comprehensive internal plant protection comes at the top of our price bracket. You can expect to spend up to 2,200 rupees per acre to deploy these broad-spectrum options. For a low-margin row crop, that price tag is an aggressive overinvestment. These dual-action defenders make financial sense almost exclusively for high-value vegetable and horticulture crops, where total aesthetic protection dictates your final market price. Sometimes a broad-spectrum spray isn't enough. When you are facing a severe, highly specific outbreak, you need a targeted specialist. This is where formulations like BASF's Ethicon and Best AgroLife's Nemazin step in. Ethicon is a Group 36 chemical built for one primary job: eradicating severe, highly resistant whitefly outbreaks that brush off standard sprays. Nemazin takes a different, highly targeted approach. It combines 3 distinct active salts into a single formulation, engineered specifically to break the life cycle of shoot and fruit borers in brinjal crops. Looking at this matrix, you can see the strict rules these specialists demand. Because Nemazin relies on a precise 3-salt blend, it must be applied entirely alone. Introducing NPK fertilizers or tonics disrupts that fragile balance, neutralizing your premium investment. This creates a hard agronomic trade-off. By isolating the insecticide, you are committing to running entirely separate passes for your foliar fertilizers, which costs you extra time, extra fuel, and extra labor. To guarantee a kill on a highly resistant, specific pest, you have to sacrifice application efficiency and adhere strictly to the chemical's rules. Now, what if you are a field farmer who needs premium control, but the math on a 2,000 rupee per acre spray just doesn't pencil out? That brings us to Corteva's Engage insecticide. Engage drops your premium costs down to around 1,100 to 1,200 rupees an acre, while still delivering excellent knockdown power against caterpillars, thrips, and leaf miners. The cost difference is mechanics. Engage doesn't flow through the vascular system. It relies entirely on direct contact action. The mist must touch the pest. This creates a clear trade-off. Since the plant isn't moving the chemical internally, your physical spray coverage across the field must be absolutely flawless. If your boom height is off, your nozzles are clogged, or you leave gaps in the canopy, any pest that avoids direct contact or avoids eating that treated patch of leaf will survive the application. Choosing a budget-friendly premium option saves you upfront capital, but it forces you to invest significantly more effort into a meticulous, gap-free spray job. So how do you actually make the final call? You map your exact field conditions to the right chemical logic. This flowchart breaks down the scenario match. If your scouting reveals a severe, isolated whitefly outbreak that older chemicals can't touch, you follow the path straight to a targeted specialist like Epicon. If you're growing brinjal and your primary crisis is aggressive shoot and fruit borers, the matrix points you directly to the precise 3-salt formulation of Nemazine. If you are dealing with a complex mix of resistant sucking and chewing pests, you check your budget. Need fully systemic vascular protection? You route to Camelus. Willing to rely on contact and translaminar action to save some money? You route to Lenovo or Engage. Reserve these premium formulations for moments when your legacy chemicals are no longer providing effective control. Working through this matrix is how you prevent blind overspending. You ensure your capital is only deployed exactly where the biological crisis on the ground actually demands it. Even if you select the perfect chemical, that investment will completely flatline if you apply it under the wrong environmental conditions. To get the actual ROI out of these premium molecules, you have to follow 2 mandatory rules. The soil must be recently irrigated to maintain plant hydration, and you only run the sprayer in the late evening. Once applied, you need a guaranteed 1 to 2 hour rain-free window. These chemicals require that time to fully bind to the leaf surface and begin absorbing into the plant's internal systems. If you rush the application midday under a blazing sun, intense heat will cause the water carrier to evaporate before the active ingredient can absorb. You will have paid top dollar for a chemical that evaporated into the air. The true effectiveness of these insecticides relies on a precise, scenario-matched strategy executed on the farm.